Our guest today is Liz Flynt. She is the chairwoman of the iconic Hustler brand, overseeing publishing, broadcasting, retail, video, and gaming. Please welcome to the show, Liz Flynt.
When Larry passed away, 24 hours later, his attorney calls me and says, "You are sole beneficiary of Larry Flynt. Do you have any questions?" And I said, "I can't talk right now." And I started crying and I had to get off the phone. I didn't want to hear anything. I just was a little lost and grieving. It was a very difficult time of my life.
I can't imagine.
You know, I lost my North Star.
When Larry passes away, how does this book come into the picture? Books. They've saved us from the dark, set our souls on fire, and whispered truths we couldn't ignore. I'm Chris Collins, and this is Books That Changed My Life.
Larry saw leadership in me, he saw confidence, and he saw a lot of different qualities in me that I didn't see in myself.
So the big question, how did the Autobiography of Eleanor Roosevelt change your life? Welcome to the library.
Hi, Chris. Pleasure to be here and meet you. And I'm just in awe with the beautiful book collection that is displayed throughout this area.
We love books. What did you order to drink?
A water, maybe a cup of coffee.
Coffee? Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're so sweet.
Coffee with cream, huh?
Cream and sugar.
Cream and sugar?
I had just 2 packs of sugar. Yeah.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the smell of books. I love everything about them.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
When my husband was young in the Navy, he was fascinated by books. And in the 60s, he belonged to Book of the Month. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
Book of the Month, and you would get like a couple of books a month, and read them. And he told me the most interesting thing that he read, and he signed up for it, and he took the course. It was called Evelyn Wood Reading. It's like speed reading or whatever. Yeah. And he took it in the 60s. I said, "So tell me what the method is, Larry." And he said, "Just reading down the middle. But if you forgot something, then you go back and read the paragraph where you didn't understand what you were reading about." But, yeah. And I said, thank you. And what inspired you to sign up for that? And he said that he read that President John F. Kennedy took that class and that she had a visit to the White House. So isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Where the inspiration comes from.
You know, I've tried that and I don't like it.
I never tried it, so I wouldn't know.
I like just taking my time.
Yeah, because you lose.
Not
I think.
In a rush.
Yeah, you lose. I think.
I also, when I come back to a book, I have to kind of read a couple pages before where I stopped to kind of get back in, and I like that too. I'm not in a big hurry.
Yeah, but it's interesting where the inspiration comes from.
Yeah, and JFK was an avid reader. We have a couple of his books here.
And my husband met him. My husband was he was in the Navy, a radar man, and he worked on, he was on the USS Enterprise, and John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy came on the ship. And my husband said, he came up to him and he said, "Young man, can you tell me what you're doing?" And my husband said his superior stepped on his foot like, don't say anything that you shouldn't, And then, fast forward, my husband was interviewed for George Magazine by John Jr.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then his sister, Caroline, she wrote a book on privacy, and she interviewed Larry for her book. So, interesting.
Comes full circle.
Yes. So,
it's interesting.
Interesting. That fascination of how books are real important to my husband, and still in the publishing business, too.
Yeah, it's a part of it. Well, welcome to the library.
Thank you.
Our guest today is Liz Flynt. She is the chairwoman of the iconic Hustler brand, overseeing publishing, broadcasting, retail, video, and gaming. Please welcome to the show, Liz Flynt. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. Honored.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley.
Here in Los Angeles?
Yes.
So you went into nursing. Were you always kind of that caretaker, wanted to help people?
I think what inspired me to go into nursing is that when I was 15 years old, my father died of cancer. And I saw how, when he was in the hospital, how the nurses were very caring and just helping sick people. And I thought that was a noble job. And I thought, wow, these people really care about their patients. So I went into nursing.
Yeah, I think like two of the most important and giving occupations are nursing and school teachers.
Yeah.
Kind of the same, like you're
Yeah.
giving a piece of yourself for others.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I thought that was probably a good fit for me because I love being around people. And I love that part of the nurturing part of taking care of people. It's part of my personality and who I am.
So, what did your parents do when you were a
So
kid?
my mom never had to work because my father had a job, and my father worked for RCA back in the day. Well, my father died in 1977. So then my father passes away, and then my mom went to work, and I had an older sister and 3 younger brothers. And my older sister and I always felt like we were babysitters, housekeepers. We filled all the roles that you could cook, so caretaker, and so we all went to Catholic school, and so my sister and I went to all-girl Catholic school, and then my younger brothers were in Catholic school as well. So, yeah, things changed we kind of grew up right away.
What did your mom go do?
My mom was, I think, a teacher's aide.
Teacher's aide?
Yeah. So when she would get home from work, she's like, I'm not cooking. I'm not cleaning. So that's what my sister and I
She's
did.
probably working pretty hard.
Yeah. So then my mom did remarry eventually 5 years after, because my mom was only 39 when my dad passed away. She was still young.
And so when you go into nursing, did you love it? Did you love the job? Did you like going to work?
Oh, I felt it was kind of hard in the beginning.
What was hard about it?
Between the theory, the theoretical part, and then science, and then the
application.
Yes, and then going to the hospital. It was like you're just applying yourself and acclimating yourself and putting it all together.
And the stakes are high.
Yeah, these are real people.
Yeah.
And people with real illnesses.
Life or death sometimes.
Yeah. So I've only worked at 2 hospitals. That's Huntington Memorial in Pasadena and UCLA Medical Center.
And what kind of interest did you have besides?
As hobbies?
When you were younger, yeah.
Oh, I liked camping because we used to do that all the time. So I liked the outdoors, swimming, hiking. Yes.
You were active.
Oh, yeah. Bike riding. Oh, yeah. It was fun growing up in LA as a kid.
Do you still camp?
I do.
You do, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't been for 2 years only because I get so busy.
Oh, yeah,
and things have changed a little bit for me. But one of the things that I enjoy and I do once a year is I go on a yoga retreat because I do take yoga and Pilates. Those are the 2 things that are important to me right now and have been for the last 4 years, is because it's my time that I get to apply to just take myself out of that corporate environment, business, and have a little time for myself to breathe, to stretch, and to just be in a different mindset.
Be present.
Yeah. So I go to a different country every year on a yoga retreat, and it's with women. And so you get to apply yourself and meet different people from all over the world, leadership, and you learn about other people, what they're doing in their lives. And I've always felt that is so important to me, to things I could bring back to work or do things a little different. 2 years ago, I went to Capri, Italy. It was just beautiful. Last year, I went to Bali, and I felt that the Balinese people were so beautiful, learning their culture and certain things that mattered to them. And before we would go to yoga, we had to learn how to do basket weaving and apply flowers, go dress up in the traditional Balinese attire, go light your incense and say a prayer and make an offering and what is important to you, your life, your family, your business, and anything that, you do in life that comes full center. So, yes.
Are you still Catholic?
I am. Yes, I am.
How does that play into the yoga and the spirituality and all that?
You look at your faith and what gets you through difficult times in your life. Like for me, losing my husband.
Yeah.
So that was very difficult.
How did you meet your husband?
So I had a friend, male nurse, that worked for Larry. And he asked me, hey, can you help me on a case one day a week? And I said, sure. But I didn't know who Larry Flynt was. That was the naive part of, I didn't know Hustler Magazine either. And when I told my mother, she goes, oh, I know that magazine. Only because my older stepbrother had a few in his car when he would come home from college. She saw her first Hustler in the early 80s. And then, so I met him, and very nice man. I never saw Hustler Magazine in his home, though. Yeah. Very world.
What were you, so were you just helping with his health, or what were you doing for him?
Yeah. He would have nurses. Yeah. And he lived by himself with a cook and assistants. Yeah.
And so then how does it evolve? How does...
Well, I worked for him for a year, and then he asked me out, and I said no.
Why'd you say no?
I said no because I wasn't interested. Yeah. And then he kept saying, well, why don't we go out to dinner? And I said, no. And then I finally said, well, if you want to go out to dinner, then come to my home. Have dinner at my home and meet my family. So my mother, my stepfather, my sister, my niece, and a friend. And I cooked.
That was your first date?
He came to my home.
Do you remember what you cooked?
Yes, I do.
What was it?
I cooked prime rib, mashed potatoes, green beans, gravy, and 3 attempts to Yorkshire pudding. And the third time it worked, they came out. It was
That's
hard.
quite a spread.
That's hard to make. I tell everyone, don't think you can, So the third time it worked.
So he comes over, and what did your family think of him?
He came. So I lived in Alhambra because my sister and I owned the home that I was living in. And he comes over in a Rolls Royce, and it was funny because I lived on a quiet street and there was people looking. So he brought roses for my mother, my sister, and myself, and a bottle of wine. And he was the perfect gentleman. He is a very nice guest, and he told jokes, had a good sense of humor, and everyone liked him, and he didn't overstay his welcome.
Oh, he left?
After dessert.
That's great. And so is there a second date?
Yes, then we went to the Palm. Remember the Palm restaurant on Santa Monica?
Oh, yeah.
And then it moved to Beverly Hills and closed. Yeah, and he took me because he wanted to show me that he was on the wall.
Did that impress you?
I thought that was interesting. I met the maitre d' at the time. His name was Gigi. And he told me, Liz, he said, I knew Larry when Larry was walking. So my husband was coming to Los Angeles quite frequently because headquarters was in Columbus, Ohio. And then in the late 70s, Larry wanted to move the company to Los Angeles. But he was shot in March of 1978. So yeah, it was interesting. So the picture that was on the wall at the time was when he was 34, 35.
So how does he get you to fall for him?
Just dinners, perfect gentleman, flowers. But he was a very interesting man. He had an impeccable vocabulary and just very worldly and just a gentleman.
Very smart, right?
Yeah, very.
Very intellectual?
Oh, yeah.
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 Was there a moment that you decided you were going to let this
it went on for another year, and then in 93 because I went from full-time at UCLA to part-time to per diem to 1 day a month, I'm sorry. And then my boss called me in her office one morning and said, Liz, sit down. And then I was trying to think, what does she want to tell me? And she said, Liz, we're always having to adjust the schedule around you. So you're going to have to decide where your loyalty is. Is it going to be Larry Flynt or UCLA? And I teared up. Wow, I've never been forced to make a decision, my career or somebody else. That was that was overwhelming for me. So then I told her I needed to think about it. I didn't want to make a decision right there. So
who did you talk to about it?
So I talked to Larry. I called him up when I got home. And then I told him, I said, my boss had a discussion with me. And I said, she wanted me to decide where my loyalty was. It going to be you or UCLA? And he says, you don't need to work, Liz. I'll take care of you. So then I called in sick that day. And then I went over to his house on, let's talk. And I just told him, because by that time I was traveling with him. He said, you don't need to work, Liz. I'll take care of you. And I said, but I have a home, I have a car, I have this. He says, don't worry. He was just a really neat guy. And I could see in the twinkle in his green eyes that, there was love there. And he was a man of his word. And he kept it.
What do you think about you made him fall for you?
I don't know. I think he liked brunettes, maybe. Maybe because...
It's got to be more than that, I'm sure.
I think because he liked my style. And I knew a lot of nursing. And he thought I was probably someone different.
What made you different?
Well, his daughter had told me one time, oh, he used to date her. And I don't know if they were just genuine or I don't know.
Was it the fact that you were genuine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He liked?
Yeah. I wasn't born with a silver spoon, and I always, I worked. I never relied on anybody for anything. And I lost my dad early when I was a teenager. So, yeah.
Did he sort of fill that role a little bit?
No.
Like he was somebody to depend on?
No.
No?
Oh, no. Because as I got to know and understand how things were, I saw him at his company, his style of how he ran his company. He was a tough boss. He didn't get where he was by just being this, guy, publisher of Hustler magazine. He was a real innovator. He diversified his company through the years. I saw him when he thought that when he saw this internet coming through, free porn on the internet, that's not going to be me left behind. So he diversified the company in the early 90s. Yeah.
What would you say that most people don't understand about Larry?
I always say that Larry was a real Renaissance guy and very misunderstood. He was misunderstood. And I think the people that got to know him and really understood him, like Milos Forman, the director of The People versus Larry Flynt, Oliver Stone. Yeah, these are very interesting people with different backgrounds. And they saw something very different in Larry. He was very an intellect. I mean, I think one of the things that also impressed me about my husband is that he was invited to speak at Oxford. He was invited to speak at Cambridge. And they don't even have the First Amendment. We do.
Yeah, funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not funny, really.
Well, I mean, Larry, this is pre-Liz. So Larry went to the U.S. Supreme Court. And he had a case that changed the landscape for cartoonists, comedians. And his case was based on making parody and satire protected speech. So he felt so compelled and so passionate about the First Amendment and free speech. And that's how he wanted to be remembered, that if I can leave any legacy, that helping expand the parameters of free speech, that's what he wanted to be remembered by.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't appreciate that a lot of the comedic freedom came from that.
Free speech, yeah. Making that anything they said they wouldn't be prosecuted or jailed.
Yeah.
I know Bill Maher appreciated that because he did a few shows with Bill and was a friend.
Did Larry have friends, like close friends?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, he had his close friends. They're older. And one just passed away in December, and he was a producer for Bob Schieffer and Sam Donaldson. And then Larry's, one of his dear friends, worked for the Washington Post. And his other friend's still alive, Cody Shear. But, oh yeah, he had just a handful that were near and dear to his heart that were just very close. And a lawyer was been with him from the beginning, since 75, Paul Cambria. Yeah. Alan Isaacman is the lawyer that took him to the U.S. Supreme Court. Mm-hmm.
So how did he propose to you?
Oh, he proposed to me at home. And he had a 4-carat pear-shaped diamond, platinum, and in his pocket. And he asked me, I think it was in 93, yes. And he said, will you marry me? And I said, oh, wow.
You didn't expect it?
No. Yeah.
Did you not expect it because you didn't think he was the marrying type?
Well, he'd been married 4 times before me.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to get married to him because wasn't his health. You know, he had health issues sometimes. So, yeah. But eventually we got married in 1998.
Wait, did you say yes right then, or did you make him work for it?
Made him work.
For how long?
1998. But you know what was interesting about Larry is that he was always a man of his word. He loved to travel. And when I met him, he didn't have a plane at the time. But when we'd go to Europe, we'd go to New York, JFK, and get on the Concorde. Yeah. And then in 94, he bought a G2, and then he had the G4 and the G550.
Those are nice.
Yeah, it was a very nice lifestyle. And but you know what? He worked until he passed away.
Do you think that's what kept him going?
You know what he used to tell me? He goes, I love my company. He said, so I don't see it as work, Liz. He said, it's something that I have built from ground up, and I've been tested a few times, and I enjoy it.
Not too many people live that existence. Mm-hmm. Most people are feeling like they have to work, that they have to do something.
Mm-hmm. And he used to tell me early on, he said, I have it to a point where we could survive a couple of depressions. Like if we went through a depression, he used the word depression. Because a recession, you go through it, we're out a year or two. He was a good businessman, a role model, a mentor, and I learned a lot from him. He had a plan early on for me, and I didn't see it that way. When he passed away, 24 hours later, his state attorney calls me and says, by law, Mrs. Flint, I have to call and make you aware of how things are going to be. And he says, you are the trustee and the sole beneficiary of Larry Flynt. Do you have any questions? And I said, I can't talk right now. And I started crying and I had to get off the phone. Because that was only 24 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear anything. I just was a little lost and grieving. And it was a very difficult time in my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't imagine.
Mm-hmm. I lost my North Star. I lost my husband. The company lost their boss. It was a very difficult time for the company. And everybody was trying to figure out what's going to happen because they didn't know. And I didn't go back to the company for like 2 months. And I was called to come back. We need you, Mrs. Flint. Our hands are tied. We need you.
Yeah, and so then you kind of had to be, kind of like when you were a kid, you had to now all of a sudden
step up
and kind of, it was about the company, not you in a sense, right?
Yeah, I had to jump into a different role, and it was very difficult. It was very difficult. And Larry warned me. He had a conversation with me. He said, remember, no crying, Liz. You can't cry at the company. They're going to say, there she goes again crying. She's weak. She can't do this.
Do you think that was good advice? Yeah.
He said, if you get into a difficult moment, step aside. Never make a decision on emotion. Go home. Call your advisors.
So he really was kind of preparing you.
He did.
What other things in the business was he doing that you didn't realize until after?
And I'd say in the last maybe 10 years, my office was right next to his. He brought me closer because when we moved from 9171 Wilshire Boulevard and he bought the iconic building on La Cienega in Wilshire, we were on the 10th floor and he had this beautiful office, but I was on the opposite side of him. He made it clear that I shouldn't be privy to who's coming into his office. So, yeah. And then the last 10 years, he moved me into the president's office. Yeah, right next to his office.
And so you had a very deep understanding of the business and how it functioned at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I started in 94. He says, you're going to work. And I said, oh, okay. So I thought I was going to go back to nursing. He says, no, you're coming to work for me. And I said, I don't know your business and I don't want to. And he says, no, I'm going to teach you. So I started at the bottom in the talent relations department. And then fast forward 6 years, he moved me up to associate publisher. Oh, back in the day when we used to edit the magazine, we'd go down to the 3rd floor and the photo room. And that's when they had the light tables. And we would edit with the loop. This is before digital. And we would be marking up and he'd show me how to pick a centerfold, how the layout. He goes, remember, Liz, you're telling a story. So the clothes are on, and then before you know it, they kind of slowly come off, and then the photo spread.
So it's almost like a little seduction in a way. That was the story. Wow.
Yeah. There was always one girl set in the magazine, one boy-girl, and then girl sets. Yeah. And then his photographers, we used to go on shoots, and sometimes we'd go traveling. And so I always felt that I learned from the best. So Clive McLean, James Bays, Mattie Clatt, and Suze Randall. And I think James was Larry's favorite, and my favorite was Clive. And I learned a lot. And they showed me the angles and how to take, different angle shots. The nose was the most important thing. And
wait,
lighting.
Why is the nose the most important
thing?
Well,
not everybody has the perfect, cute, adorable nose. And sometimes they're pointy or at the angle it looks kind of funny. And yeah, I learned a lot.
So you have to cheat it somehow?
It's shooting the angle. Yeah.
The lighting.
Yes. Yeah.
And he taught you all of that?
Yeah.
So just if we can back up a little bit. So when you're younger and you're introduced to him and it's Hustler, it probably wasn't a magazine that you subscribed to.
I never saw Hustler until I met Larry.
And so what was your personal journey with, just opening up to that and, kind of...
Well, when I first looked at the magazine, he said, do you have a problem? And I said, no, it's just nudity. It didn't make a difference to me. I was a nurse. I saw nudity all the time.
So worse than that, probably.
Yeah, so...
There was never any internal conflict for you?
No, I didn't.
What about the point of view of others, like your mom or just friends?
Well, by then they knew Larry, and no one ever said anything. Yeah,
no?
My friends are like, wow. It was a respectable business because Larry was a true professional.
Yeah, he's an icon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But sometimes he used to ask me questions. He goes, what is it like to be married to Larry Flynt? He would always joke with me. And I said, you're just my husband, and you're the father of, I would name my dogs. And he just laughed. So I treated him like a husband and not like this big, figure, life-size figure. Because he knew I just married him for being Larry and not just a guy pornographer, people, that's what used to column. And sometimes when I would read things, I said, they called you a smut peddler. He goes, but Liz, a smut peddler who cares. He was cute. He was really sweet.
I kind of ran into him twice. And yeah, he was always very nice. I saw him at the Peninsula Hotel.
Oh, that's
he
what
would always go there.
Breakfasts.
Yeah.
Almost every day when we weren't traveling. Oh, yeah. He loved going there. You know what he said when he would go there for his breakfast before the office? He said, this is where I can just really kind of just get my thoughts together. What kind of a day? Or sometimes he had to meet people. Yeah.
And I've talked to people that worked for him, and just unbelievable intellect, smartest person they've ever met.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't stop raving about him in that way.
He was a numbers guy. Sometimes, because we own 2 casinos, and one time he asked the VP of gaming, he says, you're off a mill. And Tom would say, no, I'm not. He goes, yes, you are. And then he'd go back, he goes, I found that mill. It was an error.
Yeah, he just knew.
Yeah. So
he had that thing.
Oh, yeah. He was just a numbers guy. He knew. We have management meetings once a week in the boardroom. And I still have them to this day. And people would come with their P&Ls and everything. And Larry would just come. And when they go over certain things, he said, you're wrong. And they get all nervous. But he was always right. And that's what impressed me about him. Larry was a very interesting man. There was, you just never knew what he was thinking. That's the thing, the mystique behind. But he was a really smart guy, down to earth, fun-loving, loved to travel, loved art, loved reading, and fun. And this is a guy that loved life more than anything else. And he had the best doctors in Beverly Hills.
What was his favorite piece of art?
Ooh.
That you
I have a piece of, it's from Switzerland. It's a very famous glass piece. And it's in a case. When I had to leave my house for the fires because it was evacuated for overnight, believe it or not, I took that piece and I wrapped it in a beach towel and put it in a suitcase because I always remember he loved that piece and he paid so much for it in Switzerland at an auction. So I took it, but nothing ever happened.
What is the piece?
It's just a very beautiful art piece. It's
a sculpture?
Yes.
Made out of
glass.
Glass? And what is it of?
It's of a lady. I forgot the name of it, believe it or not. But it's just a piece that he just loved. And he paid a lot of money. I think he paid for like $500,000 for it at the time. This was like 30 years ago.
Do you have any art that you guys own that you love?
I love, lamps was his thing. So yeah, Tiffany lamps, Handel, Pierpoint. I mean, just beautiful lamps. When I moved the company from Beverly Hills to Century City, because 2.5 years, almost 3 years ago, when I decided that I didn't want to stay there and not renew the lease because Larry had sold the building and took out a lease and was coming up. I knew it was coming up for renewal. And I said, I don't want to stay here. I want to move. I only looked at two spaces. And the second space I saw was in the Century City Towers, North Tower, 42nd floor. And it was an empty shell. And I said, I want to move the company here. And I told my CEO, I said, I don't want to look at any more, and this is it. He goes, okay. He goes, what's next? And I said, I'm going to call Nelson Algazi, the architect that built Hustler Casino, remodeled Lucky Lady. And when Larry bought the building on Wilshire and La Cienega, he remodeled. And so for Larry, and I thought, I go to somebody who knows me, who knows the company, knows our taste. And it's all about the relationship. Larry always kept relationships. And I said, better person is Nelson. So I called him and I said, can you meet me? And I arranged for them to let us come back and look at the floor again. He brought his design team and his team, and he walked around and looked around and he says, I can do this for you, Liz. I can make it happen. I said, but I want to tell a story. He said, okay. And the story was, when you walk in, I want to be able to tell a little bit how this company evolved. And so on the left side, you see, in black and white, you see chips flying through the air in cards, and somebody's hand like holding a card up. And on the right side, you see the neckline of a beautiful woman, and she's turned away. And it's telling a story that Larry started out with the magazine, like beautiful women in the clubs. Then the magazine, that's the story. And then in matte gold, you see these big letters, FMG, and it stands for Flint Management Group. And then you see the boardroom, and it's called the Kahuna. And that was Larry. He was the big kahuna. Because in Vegas, they had a suite named after, they called it the Kahuna. And it was a suite for Larry in Vegas because he was a gambler too. In LA, he played 7-card stud. And in Vegas, he played blackjack, and he was known as a whale.
I have a host that was my host that became kind of prominent. He's still, a big person there. Now he's a vice president. But I had him speak at an event because I was so impressed with how he followed up with people. He told the story of how he got Larry. So I think Larry...
What's his name?
His name was Randy Carlson. And he worked at the Hard Rock. Well, the story he told is that for 18 months, every month, he would send Larry a fruit, one of those fruit arrangements.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Is that Steve Sear?
No.
No? Okay. Maybe it could be. Okay.
So he said he would send it and then he would call and Larry would never take his call. And then he said on the 18th month, the person who answered the phone said, Larry's just asking that you don't send them anymore. And he's like, no, I'm not going to stop sending them. And so Larry got on the phone and he ended up getting him out. He said he only came out twice or something, but he was a whale and he got him. But he persistently sent him that over time. Or that was the story he told. I don't know.
Because the guy at the Hilton, the host at the Hilton, did the same thing to Larry. And this was in the late 90s. And
guys like Larry probably appreciate follow-up and, people that are really, putting in the work.
So when Larry had somebody do something similar at the Hilton, the Las Vegas Hilton, when Baron Hilton owned the hotel and casino. So then at the time, Larry was going to the Rio. This was in the early, mid-90s, I should say. 96, 97. And remember 48 hours before it changed into this investigative stories. It was 48 hours. They would follow somebody for 48 hours. And Harold, the guy was named Harold. So he was really neat. And so they did a story on Larry and they followed him. So they followed us from the home to Clay Lacy, private aviation, get on our plane, go to Vegas, land, go to the Rio, and they see Larry playing. And they're filming this whole thing. And Larry's not doing too well. He's actually losing at the Rio. And then Larry takes a break, goes upstairs, and he calls that guy that was calling him for a while from the Hilton, and his name's Steve. He says, hey, Steve, I'm at Larry Flynt. I'm in Vegas. He goes, I want to come and play at your casino. I'll be over in an hour. All right, Mr. Flint. Boom. So 48 hours follows him to the Hilton. And then he's in a private room playing blackjack, and he's doing well. And he said, Liz, why don't you go shopping or go have some fun? Go look at the gift shops, whatever. He wanted to he didn't need me because I would always sit to the left of him. So I said, okay. And I went to play a little bit. Then I went looking at all the shops. So I come back a couple hours later, and he said, did you see anything you liked? What did you do? And I told him I went to play a little bit. Then I said, I went to this jewelry store, and I saw these beautiful earrings, but nah. He goes, well, I want to hear about them. And I said, they were diamond earrings, heart-shaped, 3 carats each, but they were too expensive. Well, how much were they? I said, you don't want to know. They were almost like $100,000. They were like $90,000. And he goes, oh, okay. He said, you ready to go to dinner? And he was up. So then we go to dinner. We go freshen up. And then we get to the restaurant. And then we sit down. And then Baron Hilton comes to the table. He said, "Hi, Mr. Flint, Baron Hilton." And Larry goes, "Oh, pleasure to meet you." And then he walks away. And I get my napkin, put it on my lap, and there's a little box right there. I'm like, "What's that?" And he goes, "I don't know. What is that?" So I take the ribbon off and open the little black box. Oh my God, Larry. Oh my God, how did you do this? It was those earrings I saw. Oh my God. And I was like, "Wait a minute." Oh my God. I was like so excited. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe." And then I got up, gave him a hug and a kiss. And he goes, "Okay, let's eat dinner. I'm hungry." So then I was like, all I could think about is those earrings, like I need to put them on, but I didn't. So he told me this story. I said, "How did you do it? Because we were together and you couldn't possibly go get those earrings." He said, "I told Steve that my wife saw a pair of earrings. If he wanted to keep me here, he had to do something for you." And I guess that's because he had to get permission. And the owner was, and I was thinking, uh-oh, that's why he came to see Larry.
That's awesome.
So here's the thing. So at the end of the night, this is like almost midnight, and Larry goes, "I'm tired. I want to go back to the hotel and go to bed now because I'm tired." And he calls his host, Steve, and he says, "Rack up. I want to cash in." It's $1 million. And 48 hours is still, keep in mind, 48 hours. So then we go back, and Larry tells Harold, he says, "I'm tired. I don't want to do no interviews right now. I need to go. I'm just literally tired." He's working. Larry's working the whole night, playing blackjack. So I couldn't sleep because I'm like, these diamond ears. And Larry just won $1 million. How do you sleep, right? So they give Larry a check. And so in the afternoon, Harold comes to our suite and says, "I want to do the interview, a small interview with Larry, because I think we have enough footage and we're done with this." So then he's interviewing Larry. He goes, "I hear you had a good night." And he goes, "I sure did." He goes, "How good?" And Larry had the check in his pocket. And he goes, "Wow." And then he said, "Wow, this is too good to be true. This is like a fun trip." And then he goes, "Liz, come over here." And I was saying, and he goes, "Come on over here, Liz." So I walk over there, very shy. He goes, "Show Harold your earrings." He goes, "Mrs. Flynt, they're beautiful. Where'd you get them?" I said, "The Hilton."
And did that make it in the episode?
It did. So here's the kicker. So fast forward, it comes on TV, and Larry's host calls him. He goes, "Mr. Flint, why did you do that to me? Now my other players are saying their wives want earrings. Their wives want their diamond earrings too."
That's funny.
It's a good story, huh?
It's a great story.
And then Larry goes, "It was just a good story to tell."
Yeah, that's great. That's fun. When Larry passes away and you're kind of faced with that, how does this book come into the picture?
So the Autobiography of Eleanor Roosevelt was given to me by a friend. She goes, "You should read this." And I did, and I felt, what a powerful connection.
Why did she think you needed it?
Leadership, because I was going into a role that I felt that I was not prepared for, because that's how I felt, because I was grieving, and I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? Trustee, sole beneficiary. I was thinking, I'm glad somebody had confidence in me, because at the time, I didn't have the confidence in myself. Obviously, Larry saw leadership in me. He saw confidence, and he saw a lot of different qualities in me that I didn't see in myself, because I was grieving, and it was a very difficult time for me.
And so she recommends the book?
Mm-hmm.
How long after he passed away?
About a year.
About a year?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so you're in the company at this point running it.
Mm-hmm. As I started to read, I said, wow, FDR was in a wheelchair by polio in 1921. He got polio. And then she was his eyes, ears, and his legs. She was the messenger. He depended on her. He relied on her. He had confidence in her. He had that trust in her even when she didn't have it. Because she says in the book, Eleanor says that she didn't see that in the beginning, and that she was supposed to be this dutiful wife. Her mother-in-law was like doing everything for her, to care of the kids.
That felt very similar to your relationship with Larry?
Yeah.
You were his legs?
In some ways, yeah.
How does that change the closeness in a relationship when you're that dependent on each other?
You know what he depended on me? Was this, and my knowledge of anything that would come or anything that he would incur in terms of like health issues. He depended on me. He always relied that Liz has this. She's going to have my back no matter what. And Larry's doctors always used to say that I made it easy for him. He never had to worry about his health because I took the burden off of him. And they always used to tell me that you make our job easy, Liz, because you know what you're dealing with. And I would report this, and that. Okay.
You're aware that most relationships don't have that level of trust, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So how does it change, when we're talking about Eleanor and we're talking about you, that level of trust and intimacy is different than most experience, right?
There are times where he did get sick and he was in the ICU on a ventilator, got pneumonia, whatever, and I had to make a few decisions for him. And then after he got well, and he said, "You did the right thing. You made the right decision." Yeah. And he got sick in 19 and real sick, and I had to make a decision for him. And it was interesting. He told his doctor when he was okay, he said, "I'm glad Liz was there for me because she knew what to do. And she made a few decisions on behalf of me of the business, and they were the right decisions for me." So, yeah. And Larry's estate lawyer told me when he made that phone call, he goes, "You know why you got everything, Liz?" And I said, "No, he never told me that." He says, "Because one time when we were meeting, he said, Larry told Mr. Carletto that he said, Liz never asked me if something happens to me, will I be taken care of? She never asked about anything like that." And he says, "And for that, she gets everything." And Rick told me the story. They were at the peninsula.
Wow. How did you feel when he said that?
When because Larry didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Mr. Carletto told me that.
How did you feel?
I was crying. You always want to know that your husband would tell you those kind of things, But I think Larry just didn't want to tell me that.
Yeah.
I never had to worry about anything when Larry was alive because he ran the company. He was the boss. He financially took care of everything. He made those important decisions. He was a very calculated man. Never had to worry.
Yeah, but isn't there also another side of that I'm sure you understand is when you're successful, there are a lot of people that want to have relationships with you for the wrong reason.
Can be.
And so your authenticity, was something that he probably didn't experience that much, right?
Well, he always felt that. He always
something.
Yeah, he always felt that certain family members just treated him like an ATM machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of back to my point of that special relationship that was very intimate and there was a lot of trust there, right? Because you can't really trust a lot of people when you're
No, you can't.
As successful as you are.
And I was always under the radar. He never saw me. He never heard of me. I'm not on Facebook. Yeah. Even when we would walk the red carpet and go places, I would tell him, "Oh, you want the other side?" I would go walk around. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only time I walked the red carpet is when we went to the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards. But obviously, it's this movie, But
so how does Eleanor change throughout this book?
She was a woman that came into a role, and she was a force. She learned a lot about herself through that role as First Lady. She was the longest living. Well, she served as the longest role as a first lady, like almost 10 years. It was her force. She was very shy. She was surrounded herself around smart women and always wanted to have women's, like, for example, press conferences. She would always want to include them. And eventually, she would have one just for women. But she would always go to FDR's advisors to get their permission. It was different times back then. She always felt that she had to get the approval. But back then, in those days, the press, the newspaper reporters, they were like just looked at as always reporting the facts. And nowadays, you say something, it's cancel culture. Yeah.
I find the tone of the book to be like from a different era, in the sense that she's not really open about her emotions. Everything is like very kind of matter of fact, and it's just like, this happened and this is what it means. And
but I looked at her as like leadership. That's what's important to me. And women, because I have several friendships with women that are near and dear to my heart, that were right there for me after Larry passed away. And we meet several times a year. We all do something different. One's a lawyer, one's a psychologist, one doesn't have to work, one is a journalist. And so we all do something different. Actually, two are lawyers. So we all share different stories about us. And the three of us have lost husbands. 4 of us have lost husbands. So there's that bond.
So tell me what leadership is.
To me?
Yeah.
Leadership is leading. It could be anything. It could be a company. It could be an organization. It could be many things. But sometimes leading without and leading with force, you don't have to have a title. And you could be underestimated and still lead. I think that toughness and compassion can coexist. And Eleanor proved that.
That you can be both. That they're not you don't have to sacrifice one for the other.
No.
Most people kind of think that it's a trade-off, right?
She proved that. And so I was at a very delicate point in my life, and pivoting to and having to make critical decisions and make important ones, because at the end of the day, I hold the purse strings to that empire. I have a management team that helps me run all the entities. So I have 2,300 people that work for me global. I mean, between Europe, we have a company in Amsterdam and Europe and London. And then I have a company, a broadcast company in Boulder, Colorado, 2 casinos. I have 100 retail stores. And after Larry passed away, I grew the company, because when he was very ill in the hospital, and he knew he probably wasn't going to, because he died of cancer. At the end, he went in for back pain, and he says, "Where is this back pain coming from? I can't, live with this." And they did an extensive workup on Larry, and they found that he was stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And he had the same doctor as Alex Trebek. And he felt so bad when Larry passed away. He wrote me the most beautiful letter.
Oh, he did? That's sweet.
Dr. Hoffman.
Well, how would you describe your leadership style?
It's very open, but I'm a listener first. I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me how you're going to handle this decision. I want to hear everybody's input. And then based on that, I listen to my CEO, and we have an understanding that we'll always talk everything out, because where there's a financial impact or you bind me to something, I have to know how I'm spending this company's money or committing this company to millions and millions and millions of dollars. Yeah.
So let's say that I work for you and I run a division. Let's just say I run the casinos. I don't know, I'm just making one up.
VP of gaming.
The numbers are down and we're not making the money that we should. You know, you want to change my perspective or whatever. How would you go about it?
Well, first of all, I would have saw the trend months. I would saw on the P&L. I would see a dip, and then
how long of a rope do I have before Liz is calling me?
Oh, you have less than a month.
Less than a month?
Yeah.
And how's that
So
first
say
phone
I
call
see the
go?
trend. See, I see the trend.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to call you up to corporate, and let's have a talk. But I'm at the casinos. Once a week, both casinos, so I will always know what's going on, you know. But the thing is that if
I just think these sort of things are just a great example for other leaders out there to understand, like, your perspective and how you approach it.
So say I see a dip in the financials. So I'm going to call that person to corporate, and then I'll bring my CEO in, and then we're going to talk about what seems to be the change. Is it not having spreading enough games? Or say, because we're third-party bankers that we have at the casino. The thing is that there's always something, and you'll pick up on it right away. Or we don't have those big players anymore. But usually it won't be long before I pick up on that.
And what are you looking for from me? And what is it that I could do to make you believe in me? And what would I do that would make you not believe that I can fix the problem?
You've been doing a great job, and your leadership has been phenomenal. So something is going on. Is everything okay at home? Or has anybody in your team left?
So you're looking for the variance of what has changed. What's the difference?
Yeah. And then what do we have to do to get back those players? There are many components to this. And then,
a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. And maybe I need to replace him.
So how do you determine that? Like, what is it that would happen that makes you realize that I'm the wrong person for the job?
I'll see a trend before all of that. And then I'll start to talk to the floor people. And then I'll see the games, the drop. You know, what's that? What are those games dropping? The money. So I'll see, there's many things that you can start to trace and figure out what's going on. So right now at Hustler Casino, both casinos, we have a live streaming. We're known all over the world it's called Hustler Casino Live. It's live streaming on YouTube. And that's something that Larry wanted. He signed off on everything before he passed away. He was working on it in the hospital, but he didn't get to live long enough to see it launch. And I finished for him.
What is it I watch if I go on there?
Live streaming. The best poker players that have the resources, and they're all known all over the world. And it's usually Hold'em, or sometimes they play a little bit of a different game. Yeah. And it's funny. They have to have personalities, and it's interesting. It's a very tough to be in that game, because you're talking about millions of dollars, and they wire in, you know, because nobody wants to be coming in with $1 million or $500,000, you know. So they usually wire in the money. Yeah. So we're known for that all over the world. It's called Hustler Casino Live. And then we have one at Lucky Lady. It's on a smaller scale, but it's growing. Yeah. And people can be in their home and like, oh my God, I know that guy, I saw him, or, you know. Yeah. It's kind of fun. You know, our company has been known to be on just trend setting, starting new things, diversifying, being relevant. And also, Larry was always doing things that before people never did.
Yeah. What are the nuances of the toy business?
The retail business that we sell novelties, it's doing great.
No, but what are the nuances that make it successful? Or if it was struggling, what would you be looking at?
Well, first of all, the average person is not going to come in and buy that $200 or $300 novelty toy, the vibrator, whatever you want to refer to it as. They're going to go for middle of the road and spend maybe $70 or $80. So you got to look. And we look at the sales, and we look at what's trending, and we're always bringing in new stuff. And we've had this one too long, or this price, we want to change it up a little.
But the biggest driver is the price?
Oh, yeah, especially right now. It's all about the price. And the newest thing that I launched in the retail is we partnered with DoorDash. So Hustler Hollywood, our retail chain, is that you can go online to hustlerhollywood.com and go into that store and make a purchase, and within an hour you will have that little whatever you ordered at your door. You ring the doorbell, here you go.
How much does that increase the sales?
I don't talk numbers and sales, but we launched it in February.
Is it dramatic?
Huge. It's like, I told my CEO, it's like having another retail store with no overhead.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's genius.
And yes, so that is who we are. And we're the first. And Stanley,
So smart.
the guy that owns DoorDash, Stanley, he plays at Hustler Casino Live in the live streaming. And he told our general manager, he said, I want to meet Mrs. Flynt. So he told me that last week. And I said, well, I want to meet him too, because we have an agreement. So we have 60 Hustler Hollywood stores. And then I made an acquisition with Playboy Enterprises, and we bought 40 of their retail stores. So now I have a total of 100 retail stores. And we're the largest in the business, in the adult business, to have the largest retail chain. So that's our niche too. So we're diversified.
So DoorDash.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
DoorDash.
Very
Yes.
convenient.
Very nice.
Okay. So back to Eleanor. Can I read you some excerpts here and then just get your thoughts on it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is more towards the beginning as a kid, but she says, the habit of lying stayed with me for years. My mother did not understand that a child may lie from fear. I myself never understood it until I reached the age when I realized that there was nothing to fear.
Well, Eleanor once said that you cannot let anything intimidate you without your consent.
That's pretty good.
That's powerful. So, building up the confidence. And she was young. She was pretty as a young girl, but she looked at herself and people said she was an ugly duckling. Her dad died when she was a young girl, like me.
There's a lot of parallels.
Yeah. She went to go live with her grandmother, went to a boarding school. And so she had so many different transitions growing up.
Oh, this was a good one, I thought. And I don't know how to say this last name, but Millie Savente taught me also on these journeys that the way to make young people responsible is to throw real responsibility on them.
Mm-hmm. That was her. Because her life experience, her life experiences have really got her to think about her role. And that's how she reacted. So her role as when she was going to marry FDR, she didn't know anything about having children or anything. Her mother-in-law cleaned the floors, and did everything for her. And even like when she went into the White House as a first lady, they had these people taking care of them. She's like, wait a minute, the settings are poor conditions for them, because she always looked at the people, the more commoners, and she always felt that she wanted to help people, and she did. I mean, her mother-in-law would always try to make the decisions for her. When her son, I think it was one of the younger sons, when he was in college, he was arrested for speeding. I think he was coming from the South going up to Maine, and the police pulled him over, and he was arrested, and how they wanted to teach him a lesson that you're going to learn just like everybody else. Here comes the mother-in-law. Oh, we'll get him a new car. For 2 months he didn't have a car, and he had to learn what do you do now? But grandma came to the rescue. So there was always people trying to intervene, and I thought she was a really neat lady, because she wanted to be a mother to teach her children lessons, but she had her mother-in-law. always intervening.
She said, I had a bad habit because I was nervous of laughing when there was nothing to laugh at. He broke me of that by showing me how inane it sounded. His advice was, have something you want to say it, and sit down.
Mhm. So FDR, she always said that everything he said was pretty right, like he had the wisdom, and she listened to him. I think early on, because she didn't have that confidence in herself, she always felt that a little insecure. But it wasn't until after when he started to run for like the president and going on the campaign and learning that she felt that she had a role.
Yeah, had a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I love this one. She says, I have never known a man who gave one a greater sense of security. I never heard him say there was a problem that he thought it was impossible for human beings to solve. He recognized that difficulties and often said that while he did not know the answer, he was completely confident that there was an answer and that one had to try until one either found it for himself or got it from someone else.
Mm-hmm. So, and a few examples like when he would meet with like Churchill, at first he didn't like him, but then he listened to him and then they had that bond and relationship, friendship. And then when he didn't think he was going to get the nomination when I think it was Smith was running against him. And then he got the nomination and they were like surprised. Oh, what's next? We have to go on this campaign. But then everybody fell in line. But he listened to everybody. And I think I read that one time when they were on the campaign, he learned about more people was sitting on the train and looking through the window. He was the crops, people, seeing people working. It was through that window on the train going, because back then, they didn't have, like the travel that we have now. And he used the train. Mm-hmm. That he used the window to learn about people.
Can you think of an example as a leader that you were the one that was optimistic and believed you could figure out a way when everybody else was kind of given up or felt like it was hopeless?
Oh, yeah. There are times where, like, if we had some legal troubles or can we make this work? I always had the confidence, we'll pull through this, or we'll make this work, we'll get by. Or like me making the decision that moving the company that hadn't been moved in 28 years after Larry moved the company to 8484 Wilshire, the iconic building that he bought. And so I told my CEO, I said, we're going to make this happen. It's a big job, Mrs. Flint. I said, we're going to do it. It was a big undertaking. I had to sell all the art. I sold like 90% of all the art on different floors to A-bill auctioneers. And even my neighbor told me, he goes, Liz, I even went on the auction. People said they were buying stuff because we were just unloading all the art. I mean, I couldn't take that art to Century City with me because the design was more contemporary, more modern, whereas 8484 Wilshire was just a different design. And so I said, I wanted to put my stamp behind my name, behind the company who I'm now leading, and show who I am now. This is Liz's style. Everybody loved it. And everybody that goes there, they're so surprised of what I did. And I got one of the design teams, they gave me this one person who didn't work for them because I told Nelson, I want to build a wall of the company, the timeline. So I call it the Flint History Wall. And it's the timeline of Larry from a child to the timeline of his company until the time he passed away. So it's very impressive. And I also told my CEO, I said, we're moving and we're bringing Mr. Flint with us.
Wow.
So I recreated a smaller version of Larry's office at the new corporate office. It's beautiful. With the iconic gold wheelchair there too. Behind this huge desk. It's over 100 years old. It's just beautiful.
Wow. So the big question, how did the autobiography of Eleanor Roosevelt change your life?
Well, first of all, I just want to tell you something so endearing to me that my mom told me today. Because I told her I said, because I went to visit my mom. She has cancer and she's going through chemo, but she's fine. I said, Mom, I have to leave because this is my day off from the office. And I said, Mom, I'm going to do a podcast. And she said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, a book that I read. She goes, an autobiography. And she said, on who? I said, Eleanor Roosevelt. She goes, well, dear, your grandmother named me after Eleanor Roosevelt. That's who my mom's name is, Eleanor Marie. Yeah.
Wow. And you didn't know that?
I didn't know that. Isn't that a great story?
Gosh.
And when I was leaving, I said, love you, Mom. Mwah. And she goes, love you, baby. She goes, good luck. So my mom is so cute. Yeah, she's very sweet.
That's amazing.
Isn't that a great story this morning? I'm telling my mom what I'm doing today. I said, I have to leave on time, Mom, because I can't be late. It's downtown LA. Because my mom lives in Whittier, California.
Sometimes there's a synchronicity to life that's just hard to understand.
Serendipity.
It's amazing.
Wow. So I have a story from my mom this morning. Yeah, my mom's name is Eleanor.
Well, maybe your mom will watch this. We'll get her YouTube.
Oh, yes. Yeah, my mom will definitely, because she loves autobiographies too. She watches them on TV. My mom grew up in the era of my mom was born in 35. So obviously, Depression baby, into the 40s, the war. Yeah, the 50s.
That's fun. Tell me about the book.
Ooh, so.
Hustler, 50 Years of Freedom, Liz Flynt.
2 years ago, when I knew the 50th was coming up, I said to myself, Larry didn't live long enough to write it, so I'm going to write it. It took me 2 years because I had several lawyers making sure I had the right for this, and that. And because we're in the publishing business, and God forbid I make a mistake, I will never hear the end of it. So I made sure I had all the rights to everything here. I also reached out to Woody Harrelson, who played Larry in The People vs. Larry Flynt. He loved Larry. They became close friends after the movie. So anyways, I asked Woody, would he write the foreword to the book? And yes, he said yes right away. It was an honor. And he wrote a beautiful foreword. And at the last sentence, he said, I'm glad Liz is running the company. Long may she sail.
Aww.
I'm sailing the ship with my management team, and I'm very proud. And I love this book because it's a great book of 5 decades of Hustler the brand, the magazine, and it goes through all the best covers, the best publisher statements, the best cartoons, political illustrations, and I even got Oliver Stone's permission to put a few things that he did for Larry. So, yeah, I'm just so proud of this book. And my neighbor across the street says, Liz, you have another title behind your name, and you're its author. And he's so sweet. So, yeah, I'm excited. My book is coming out May 20th. I'll have a book signing at Book Soup on Sunset in West Hollywood at 7 p.m. I'm looking forward. It's an exciting time for the company. I can't wait. But it's just a beautiful coffee table book, and I can't wait for people to read this.
Yeah.
And you can follow me on, TikTok and Instagram, official Liz Flynt, and hustlerhollywood.com and hustler50.com.
Wait, what are you doing on TikTok?
It's neat. It's me talking about the book.
Oh, okay.
And it's some of the
I thought it would be like you in the house.
Oh, no.
How many dogs do you have now?
I have 2 dogs, and I have a standard schnauzer. His name is Blue. And I have a miniature schnauzer. His name is Bailey.
They sound like characters.
Oh, they're wild kids. I call them the Motley Crew. And I have a parrot, and her name is Webster.
Oh, wow.
African gray.
Do you put them on TikTok?
No, I should.
Yeah.
It's all about the book right now, and past interviews of Larry Flynt, 60 Minutes, and other interviews of Larry talking about the First Amendment.
Do you mentor women for leadership? Because you have so much knowledge and you have such a, great way.
Well, with my support group and my friends, lady friends that we meet, we always talk about how leadership is so important to the young girls. And I talk to the women who run the office of the building where I'm a tenant. I talk to them on leadership all the time because the majority of them are women.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Well, they're lucky to have a mentor like you. Yes. It was really fun. Yeah. Will you sign my book for me?
I will. And Gloria Allred was the lady that I had lunch with, who has been just a breath of fresh air to me. Yes. Thank you, Chris.
She's pretty smart too.
Oh, she's an icon. Women's rights. She's always the